Okay, good morning, comrades, and welcome to this convening of the Left Dialogue Forum. The Left Dialogue Forum is in existence for about 4 years now, and we've been convening on important issues facing the world, facing the country, and have been trying to have deep dives into these issues. The idea is to step back from our everyday activism and commitments. This is not a space made up of representation from organizations, but the idea of the convening was to bring together leading activists, progressive intellectuals, and so on, to kind of sit together and really grapple with issues in a dynamic, robust way. The other point about this forum is that the left has lost a lot of ground in South Africa, and there's a lot of toxicity in our politics. There's a rampant populism, there's shallow discourses, and there's also a lot of, if you like, ignorance out there as well, and confusion. And so this forum is really about grappling with these issues in a manner that can enlighten all of us. It's a space where we learn from each other. We learn from the inputs, the thoughts, the contributions of everybody. So our premise is that no one has all the answers, but collectively we can work this thing out. And we can frame strategic perspectives. And I think this is what's important about the forum. The other point about the forum is that we are not into shooting the sharpest arrows at each other. This is not a space for grandstanding. This is not a space to be right. That's the problem with the South African left. We have a dogmatic left with some very outdated certainties. And we also have a left that is mutating into sometimes right-wing positions because all these certainties have been lost. So this is a space between those extremes. It's to really clarify what it means to be left in how we engage and think and grapple with politics and the political today. So that's the Left Dialogue Forum. Our last forum, well, prior to this conversation around the party last year, before COVID, we convened leading activists engaged in renewing internationalism. We had the key collaborator of Samir Amin with us, Mamdou Habashi. We flew him into South Africa to share with us their process around building an international of workers and peoples. We had Quincy Saul from the Eco-Socialist International with us, also sharing their process. We had Heike Tomaki, who's a theorist around the Global Party. And so we had some very, very serious engagements about how we renew internationalism. And that process is ongoing. Coming out of that meeting actually has been a big push for the international of workers and peoples. I sat in the coordinating committee, but I don't have time. I'm now part of the extended executive. But in that process, there's been robust engagements even with the Progressive International and the need for unity. So our small little meeting here in Joburg has also impacted on the global discourse around realigning the left. We decided to focus on the party question because it is a fundamental question. And we've now done it. This will be the second sitting of engagement on this question. The thematic organizing our thinking is from capitalist crises to a left party question mark. What strategy, form, and program? In our last deliberations, we started setting the scene and contextually looking at dynamics. We started thinking about the return of fascism in the world. We started thinking about the crisis of neoliberalism and the underlying systemic crises of capitalism, not just the class project. We also located our thinking about the party question in that context, and we had some very interesting debates. One perspective was the movement form is where we must start, and the movement building process is important. A counter view to that was that institutional politics is a terrain that the left must occupy. In South Africa, there's a vacuum on the left at the level of institutional politics. And so there's a need for a left party in the South African context. And there was a strong argument made that that left party should come to the fore in national elections. Those deliberations will continue in this round of the convening. We are not exhausted in terms of grappling with this question. I mean, there's so much more, and we need to dive deeper. So in the course of today and tomorrow, we'll open again with the panel on the global conjuncture, crisis and possibilities. We'll then move into a session on democratizing parties and market democracies. And then we will have a session on the connected party strategy and left projects in Europe. We've invited one of the leading thinkers in the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. I've had a dialogue with Mario for many, many years about left parties in Europe, the next generation of left parties that have come post-social democracy. So Mario has been working on the idea of a connected party strategy, and that will feature in our discussion. And I felt that it was very, very important to expose the wider left conversation in South Africa to some of this thinking and the new ideas out there. We'll then have a session on the socialist resurgence, lessons for left party building and building the capacities of the working class with Sam Ginden. Sam and the late Leo Panich just wrote a book on this, trying to situate the new socialist discourse in the US context with Bernie Sanders, Coburn, and when he was leader of the Labour Party, and other forces in Europe like Syriza. So we'll get a feel for where the socialist discourse is in the global context with that input and how that relates to party building and the question of building capacities. Tomorrow we'll have a session on Towards the Left Party for South Africa. Again, getting into nuts and bolts of how we think about this as a party form, and what are the arguments? What is the case for a left party? And then we'll end with a session around grassroots approaches to local government elections. Now, the local government elections is going to happen. It's not clear when, but definitely towards the third or fourth quarter of this year. In that context, there are various grassroots forces that are grappling with the dilemma about how to approach the local government elections. So we've invited some of the leading activists on the ground that are grappling with this question. We have comrades from Queenstown, Comrade Tulani. They've had a crisis in their community for many, many years around water. And he'll be talking about the dilemmas of their civic. We have Comrade Stephen also from SHA, deepening our engagements around how we approach local government elections. And Ayanda Kota and Krizane from Craft Net, and Jane Cherry from the Climate Justice Charter Movement. So the bottom line is that as realities unfold out there, as comrades clarify where they stand on elections and party and movement, it's important that impulse feature in this conversation. And so this conversation is grounded, it's moored, and it's rich. So that's our program, comrades, for a day and a half. And thank you for making the time. Thank you for your think pieces. And let's commence.